If you've ever heard the iceberg principle, like 10% of the iceberg sits above the surface of the water. It's everything below it that causes you to see that 10%. And I believe financial freedom, when people achieve it, it sits above the water and people can see it. And they're like, oh, I want that thing. I want to be financially free. But they don't see what's underneath it. And I believe at the core, the foundation, the biggest part of your iceberg is your ability to be certain.
Welcome back to another episode of Podcast Success Secrets. I'm personally very, very excited for this one. So I don't know if you remember, Ryan, I first actually saw you speak at BossCon in Minnesota. And I was actually, before this interview, going to my notes, because for your talk, I took a lot of notes when you were talking about like the different currencies in your life and how to view like investing. And that was one of those pivots in my mind, you have when you hear people speak about things and it changes the way you view things.
Love that.
And then now we're in a position like we get to work with you, help you, and you're obviously like doing big things, impacting a lot of lives. So I'm excited to like talk a lot about like what you're currently doing, because you're an entrepreneur, you're co-founder of Cashflow Tactics. You're an investor. You have several companies. You're a father, and then you help others, reach financial freedom. So you're a leader in that sense too. So I think there's a lot of like cool things we could talk about and give some knowledge to people. But yeah, I'm excited to have you on.
Let's do it, man. This is gonna be an awesome conversation. I remember that talk out in Minnesota because I think it was my first time in Minnesota, and it was a cold awakening to what Minnesota can be like. Now, I love Minnesota's awesome. I love the people out there, but it was cold. It was cold. It was a cold place.
Did you get to go to the mall at least?
No, I didn't do it. Like man, I tell you what, if anyone's definition of financial freedom could be like probably the exact opposite, shopping. Like if I never have to go into the store, like I just had my assistant. I have a pair of pants that I really like and I got a hole in them. And so I gave her the pair of pants. I said, hey, go back to Nordstrom and buy 4 more pair of these pants. Just get these ones. I like those pants. Just get those. I don't want to go. That's my definition of financial freedom.
Just keeping life simple and like focus on the essentials. Yeah, I'm only saying that because I didn't buy anything either. It's just like I think it's the biggest mall in America. Like they have like a museum or like a amusement park like in the middle. It's crazy. But so I'd actually like to start with you kind of sharing. So you help people with actually how would you describe like you help people? You probably say better than me.
Look, here's the reality for me. I believe that so many people are held back inside of their life from what they want, because they don't understand how to use money, and they end up trading the best days, months, and years of their life away with their fingers crossed, their eyes closed, and they're simply hoping for one day, this elusive dream of retirement. And it's not working for almost everyone. It's just not working. But yet we're still trained, taught, and educated to plug into the same average system, expect the same average results, and hope that somehow we're going to be different. So our entire company, the entire movement of Cashflow Tactics is founded on one belief. 97% of traditional financial advice is dangerous, misleading, or outright wrong, because you will never get what you want. And our goal is not to help you do average better. Our goal is to help you do the exact opposite. So our goal is financial freedom in 10 years or less, regardless of your age, your income, or your experience. And to do that, it's going to require you to take control, to rise up so that you can live free.
Yeah. And you're obviously, I think all of you guys are like great speakers and great like motivators. And, obviously, when you talk to people, they're probably hearing things for the first time. A lot of the things you tell them, and you're changing a lot of people's like views in the world. But like, what's your story? Like, how did you get into this space? Like, what was your drive to like go this route in life?
Yeah, man. I always say that Cashflow Tactics was born out of pain, honestly, because I did everything right. I went to school. I got my degrees. I got my job. I diligently put my money in my 401k. I saved like a beast. Every time I got promotions, I put more and more towards my 401k. And I didn't realize it at the time. But ultimately, what I realized looking back is every promotion I got, every rung up the corporate ladder I climbed, there was a trade-off, right? And I didn't understand it at the time until I found myself nearly having traded everything I cared about, like my family, my connection. There were 2 times in my career where I lived in a different state than my family because that's just what the next promotion required. And I found myself at some very, very pivotal moments in my life. Number one, in 2008, I'll never forget my 401k had dropped like a rock. I mean, I lost almost 80% of what I had saved up to that point. And I was saving like 15, 20% of my money into that account, thinking that if I put more in, I would go faster. And I remember in the beginning, I thought I did something wrong. I thought that I had made a mistake. But as I looked around, as I talked to my coworkers, people I admired and was looking up to, I realized they were all in the same boat I was. And I somehow was expecting a different result doing average things. And that was my first wake up call that what I was doing wouldn't work. And I already knew I couldn't do it to 65. I did not like what I was doing. I was trading my life away. And then shortly after that, and I won't go into the details of this, but I had a major health crisis in our family that caused me to realize truly life is finite. Time is the asset. And I wanted to find a way to be able to own and control my time and use money as a tool to do it. And so I went on a journey of 2 to 3 years trying a whole bunch of stuff until I realized this concept that traditional finance gets you average results. And I started doing things the exact opposite. And in the beginning, everyone said I was crazy. And honestly, Daxy, I felt crazy by myself. But over time, as I started refining a system and then coming in contact with my now business partners, I started to get predictable and consistent results. And what was supposed to take me until the age of 65 doing traditionally, I did in 4 years. And, in the beginning, the people that said I was crazy, over time, and I'm not a bragger. I don't go on social media and post my pictures in front of cars and stuff like that. But over time, people noticed that my mentality, my outlook on life, my confidence, my, just the inner certainty I had was different. And many of those same people that said I was crazy started coming back and saying, "What are you doing?" And in the beginning, I just gave them a little snippets here and there to get them moving and doing something different. But over time, I realized, man, I want to help people be free, not to retire, but to live a purpose-driven life. And that's really what helped start this movement of cash flow tactics, along with my first business partner, Brad Gibb.
Yeah. So like a lot of the people who listen to this podcast, they're all like very different, like you could say leaders or, experts, or trying to become like, popular in a space or help people with other things in life, right? Because people need help in a lot of areas of their life, I would say. Even though money is a huge one, that's like a big bedrock. I guess it's one of the more, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like that's definitely.
Oh yeah. So our goal is to help people get to the top of self-actualization. I mean, we've got to fill those bottom needs first, of security, of love, of connection, that kind of stuff. And again, man, I just like, if you look at it, that's what most people trade. They trade all of the things that they care about, the middle part of that pyramid, hoping to have financial security, hoping to have enough money one day. And then even if they have enough money or not, they realize they've lost everything they cared about in the pursuit. So for sure, man, I feel that so acutely.
For you, like, when did you think you started taking on the role of becoming, more of a educator? Or did you feel like it was a responsibility, or like, because I think you said you started telling people like little snippets. Like, when did you feel like that was like the way?
At first I felt like, man, I didn't want to meddle. I didn't want to get involved in people's lives, and like you said, money is such a comprehensive topic and it impacts so many areas of our life. I mean, you might be talking, money, but underneath it, it's the stress of marriage. It's the stress of, your personal health and fitness. It's the stress of your sanity, because you're sacrificing those things. And so I didn't want to meddle in people's lives, but I gave people just enough snippets to take the next step. And then when they took the next step, they came back and said, "Okay, what's next? And what's next? And what's next?" And so really my objective, and the objective with Cash Flow Tactics, is to empower people with money, to really help them plug into a system, adopt a set of principles that whenever they find themselves off, they can just simply reorient themselves with the system and the principles. And at first I didn't want to go that deep. Like, I didn't feel like I had it. I didn't feel like I was qualified. I didn't feel like I was ready. I didn't feel like I knew, I had some success, but man, who am I? Right. And I resisted that for a long, long time. And it wasn't until I met Russell Brunson and got involved in his whole program that I realized, man, I do have something very special and very amazing to share with people. And it would be not only be a disservice, I think it would be wrong for me not to share what I know works, because I've now seen it work in thousands of people's lives, whether they start off in debt, they have a business, they have a W-2 salary, they're single, they're married, they have kids, they're in their 60s. It doesn't matter. I've seen it work in so many people's lives. And if I didn't open my mouth, because we say things that are pretty definitive in the conversation of money. I mean, I tell people everything you're doing is wrong and stop doing average things and do extraordinary things. And so, we don't get along very well with traditional financial advisors. And in the beginning, that was hard for me, but adopting this belief and really staying focused on that belief and really being comfortable in my own skin, that's allowed me to then come in contact with you and get a podcast out there where I broadcast twice a week saying all the crazy stuff I say.
Yeah. I want to talk about it. So your podcast, Rise Up, Live Free, for people listening, it's an awesome podcast. And I highly suggest, like, if you're looking to learn more, to go listen on this topic. But what would you say has been the impact on your life from starting this podcast? We can talk about your life first, and then I want to talk about like your community and like how that's changed.
Honestly, man, I believe every single one of us, we all want the same thing, right? And going back to your comment of Maslow hierarchy of needs, you have to establish your security first. You have to stabilize abundance in your life. And once you do that, I've seen this happen. I've seen people move from scarcity to abundance. And once you stabilize abundance in all areas of your life, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially, I've seen people not know what to do next. And then they go burn something down in their life so they can go back and refix it. But if you're willing to take the most daring, audacious journey of all, you step away from abundance and you move into purpose. And that truly is where you use your God-given gifts, talents, and abilities in the service of other people. Like I'm going to give you an example with my wife with this, and I'll kind of relate it back to me. My wife wrote a book 10 years ago, and her talent is writing. She loves writing. She gets so much happiness and joy and her creativity out of it. But she wrote this book 10 years ago and no one read it. I read it, our kids read it, her mom read it. And, she tried to get it published, and sent it out to so many publishers and just tried to get it out there, and no one read it. And because her voice wasn't received by other people, what she loved to do became actually a thorn in her side. It was very discouraging. She didn't get any fulfillment out of it, because what good is writing a book if no one reads it and no one gets benefit out of it? But she recently got her book published after 10 years of trying. It's now out on shelves. And the feedback that's coming in from this book that was written 10 years ago, and how people are staying up all night to read it and they love it, like, it's fulfilling now for her. So going back to this idea of moving out of abundance and moving into purpose, when you identify and find your God-given gifts, talents, and abilities and put them in the service of other people, you find fulfillment. And yes, oftentimes dollars will follow the value that you create, but you're making decisions not based on money, but based on fulfillment, based on service, based on prosperity. And that, for me, that's what it's done for me. I love what I do. I love helping people out. I love seeing the light bulb come on. I love seeing their life change. I love seeing the roadblocks that were holding people back. I love seeing those removed. And so for me, doing it first and foremost in my own life, having that daring, scary desire to go into the darkness and do things that you don't know how to do, and stand up on stage and get mocked and ridiculed, but still have people listen to you sometimes, man, that's a scary place to be. But on the flip side of that, that's the most rewarding place to be as well.
Yeah. I like to think of like your purpose as like your calling. Mm-hmm. And then like, because that journey, I think as kids, we all want to be like seen, heard, and loved, and somehow, and a purpose is a vehicle for that, your child to like,
love that,
express itself. What would you say has been like, so far, you guys are just passing a couple hundred or 100 episodes.
Yeah, dude, we just hit 100 last week, man. We hit our century mark last week. It was a big celebration for us because we've wanted to start a podcast for a long time. And, our expertise isn't knowing all the details, the ins and outs of doing a podcast. Our expertise is showing up in front of a microphone and talking about money and empowerment. And, then coming in contact with you and Ryan and really working with you guys to where we get to stand in our expertise, you get to stand in your expertise, and together we produce a great product. It was super rewarding to see a year's work of really continuous work on the podcast hit that milestone of 100 episodes.
Yeah. And it's like, you're making a huge impact because podcasting is like, it's long form, right? I think your message, like, it's perfect. Like the medium, like how deep you guys go. And then, there's like a lot of underlying philosophies and lessons that, is just beyond money. It's just life. Yeah. What would you say has been like your biggest win that's come from the podcast so far? Like, has it been someone reaching out, or, like, it could be a lot. Like, what would you say it would be?
Yeah. So, man, here's the reality. I believe, a lot of people, when they think about investing, people want to come and ask me. I think the number one question I get asked is, where should I invest my money? And I think that exposes an internal deficiency. If we don't know where to invest our money, that means we shouldn't just go out and blindly put it in whatever you were recommended. The first thing you have to do is realize that your best investment is in you. It's in improving your mindsets and then translating those mindsets into a skill set. And then it's in your network. And I've realized so many benefits over the years by investing in those three things over and over and over, literally millions of dollars into mindsets, skill sets, and network. And I think the podcast, I'd heard people say it, but I didn't understand it until I've experienced it. The podcast has been such a tremendous tool to advance the reach of my network. Like, I get to go on and interview people about their life, their success, how they've done what they've done, the triumphs that they've had, the losses that they've experienced, the failures, the successes, all of it. Guys like Russell, Ryan Mickler, you today. I mean, Allison Prince, we've had some amazing people on, and the podcast has been the medium and the tool to do it. And I've been amazed at how easy it is to reach out to people saying, hey, I have a podcast, I have a microphone, and I have a bunch of listeners. How about you come on and tell your story? And man, I feel like a kid in a candy shop because I get to sit down with people that I look up to and admire and say, tell me, like, how did you do what you did? Like, what were the successes? What were the triumphs? What were the failures? And it's so rewarding to do that. So for me, it's been a tremendous tool to connect with a community, because a lot of people like to binge, and upfront messages are kind of divisive because we say do the exact opposite. And so people then go back and kind of binge our podcast and really get a feel for who we are. So it's been a tremendous tool for our business. But for me personally, selfishly, I've super, super enjoyed using it as a tool to build work.
Yeah. And they're meaningful conversations. And I think it's just knowing too that it's like, because a lot of conversations you can have with someone, like people can have like a lot of value from just normal conversations you have with your friends or colleagues. But the fact that now you can like spread that, and then it can, because I've had my life impacted by certain interviews I've heard or et cetera. It's very powerful. And I remember you saying at BossCon too, like going back to what you said about investing in yourself. And like, I remember you saying like being a producer, not a consumer. Like a lot of people listening to this podcast are, self-starters, business owners, entrepreneurs, et cetera. Could you talk about that? Because I remember that too, being like how important is like, I think it was either you or Brad who showed like investing in like Amazon stock back in the day versus like into a team or a business. Like
it's so crazy, man. It's so crazy because look, here's the reality. I think there's kind of a progression. We talk about financial freedom, and if you've ever heard the iceberg principle, like 10% of the iceberg sits above the surface of the water. It's everything below it that causes you to see that 10%. And I believe financial freedom, when people achieve it, it sits above the water and people can see it and they're like, oh, I want that thing. I want to be financially free. But they don't see what's underneath it. And I believe at the core, the foundation, the biggest part of your iceberg is your ability to be certain. And when it comes to money, the only way you can be certain is by investing in your mindsets and your skill sets. Because Daxy, can't come into your world and take away your mindsets and skill sets. I remember back, there's a quote by Henry Ford, and Henry Ford was asked, hey, if it all fell apart, what would you do? And he's like, I would build it in half the time. I would rebuild it in half the time because I know how to do it now. I've built the mindsets and the skill sets to do it. And that's the reality for a business owner, for anyone out there. Your best investment is mindsets and skill sets. And then you take what you've built and you go plug it into your business. And if you can invest $1 into your business and sit at the center of your business and use your mindsets and skill sets with your team, the systems, the processes, everything you have, then that investment is truly an investment that you can control and impact. The likelihood of that dollar coming back in profit is super high. And then once you get good at that, $1 into your business might equal $10 in profit, $20 in profit, $30 in profit. And if an investment advisor, come to you and say, hey, Daxy, I've got an investment for you. If you give me $1, I'll turn it into 30. You're going to be like, you're crazy. But that's how the investment world works is, look, $1 might get you 7%, 10%, 15%. But if you can put $1 into your business and turn it into 2, what return is that? Who cares? I mean, it's at least 100, but who freaking cares? Like $1 into 2, that's an infinite return. So that's how we talk to people is, look, go invest in your ability first and foremost to make money. Money. And, I've seen this happen to a lot of business owners is they get stuck in that cycle of making money and they forget the other side of it. It's not what you make, it's what you keep that's really going to give you a long-term sense of abundance. And so sometimes business owners get so good at making money that it becomes a crutch. And when their taxes are due, They go launch a product to make enough money to pay their taxes. And when their kid needs to go to school, they go, pull in a little bit of extra money out of their business so they can pay for school. And they haven't really figured out how to balance that equation of making money and keeping it. And so we step in and say, look, once you've built your certainty, now invest in investments that give you confidence. And confidence means, look, you've got guarantees, you've got predictability, you've got limited downside. Because if you're going to take all of your attention and put it in your business, that investment, like anything external to your business, needs to give you a return on your attention. That's the most important thing. So you can take that attention and go put it back into the machine that is your business, and then keep the money safe, private, protected, safe from litigation, safe from markets, safe from taxes, all of that, and build the watermark, build the abundance inside of your life.
Yeah. What would you say is like for yourself, like the most important investments you're making?
Oh man, I don't believe you can't lead what you're not living. I could stand up here and sell crap all day long, but that's not going to give me any fulfillment. Yeah, you can't lead what you're not living. And so I do it like Cash Flow Tactics was born out of, hey, this is what works and this is what doesn't. So I invest in making money. That is by far my best investment. I invest in masterminds and coaches and mentors and guides, and then I make good money. Then I invest in tax strategy to keep the money that I make. And this is why I love my business partner, Brad Gibb. Like, he reads the tax code like it's, a novel. He thinks it's super fun. And that the tax code, like a lot of people, including myself, like from face value, the tax code is kind of scary. It's a big document and there's lots of ins and outs, and I don't really understand what's in there. But the tax code is really written by the IRS as a way to incentivize behavior. Like if you read the very first page of the tax code, it says, hey, guess what? Everything you make is taxable. And then the rest of the tax code is written to tell you how to not pay taxes. So that's really where I invest, is I make money and then I use tax favored vehicles like what we call the vault, which is investment grade life insurance, and then investment grade real estate. We use those two things to keep our money and to generate cash flow. And guess what? That's all I do. I make money, I keep it, I turn it into cash flow. I make money, I keep it, I turn it into cash flow. And I push the repeat button over and over and over and over and over again.
You got this game one. Like, I'm curious, like along this journey, because I'm sure it probably wasn't like you're probably at a great spot now, but like what were the biggest mistakes that you've made along the way?
Yeah.
So for people listening.
One of the tools that we talk a lot about inside of the world of investing is leverage. And leverage is a double-edged sword. Leverage is the most powerful tool in investing, but it's also the most dangerous. So if you, not knowing what you're doing, use leverage, it can destroy you just as fast as it makes you. So in the beginning, I treated, the investing that we do, I treated it just like I treated my 401k. Oh, I just put $1 in and I close my eyes and hope it works out. And when you use leverage with that, man, it's super dangerous. So in the beginning, I didn't understand the power of reserves. I didn't understand that to truly invest means I have to approach it as, look, I'm going to take the control and I'm going to impact the outcome, not just hope with my fingers crossed that it works out. So one of the biggest lessons I learned in the beginning is really understanding what an investor is, what that is. It's a person using money as a tool to get a predictable and reliable outcome, and not keeping reserves and not using leverage effectively. Those were my two biggest mistakes in the beginning. But in fact, we just did a podcast on this just today, my man. It'll be podcast number 102. But it was the idea that all wins or all losses aren't created equal. And those two losses, they were losses. I mean, you could look at my balance sheet and say, oh, Ryan lost money. And I did. I lost. You can point to it, see it, measure it, quantify it, and say Ryan lost money. But guess what? Those losses were some of the best investments I've ever made, because they taught me how to do it better the next time. And I've made more money going forward and kept more money going forward because I learned the hard way what leverage does. And now it allows me to learn the good way of what it can also do.
Yeah, mistakes are important for that reason, to learn through experience. I like that too. Money, putting your money somewhere where it's like a predictable and reliable outcome. I'm curious, like current state of affairs of like the economy and everything that's happening. Like I heard a stat, like 20% of US dollars was printed in 2020. Like, how do you think all of that is like, what's your view on things? I guess. What's happening, at least in America?
Yeah. Well, here's the reality. Like, life doesn't happen to you unless you allow it to happen to you. If you believe that you're a victim of your reality, then you will always be a victim of your reality. It doesn't matter what's happening. If the Fed's printing a bunch of money, that doesn't matter, right? You'll just be a victim. If life is happening for you, then you interpret the information that you're dealing with and you adapt, right? And
That's
right now, Opportunity, major opportunity. Right now, it's the easiest, best time to use the leverage of the internet. I mean, it's never been easier to make money online, which is amazing. Okay. Now, in some of the last tax bills, the tools that we use, like the tools that we use inside of our program, they're not the latest fads and trends. These things predate the IRS, they predate the Federal Reserve. And guess what? In the latest go around of the COVID bill, the very tools that we used were reinforced by the tax legislation and by the COVID bill to empower people to keep their money safe, private, and protected, limited from markets, limited from tax. So look at the facts, look at the details, look at the rules of the game that you're playing. And once you understand the rules, you can play to win. And so today, man, and again, you have to be super careful with this, but leverage, like money doesn't really exist right now. It's because it's printed so readily. Like one of the best things you can do is get a 30-year fixed mortgage. Guess what? If you go buy a 30-year fixed mortgage on a cash flowing piece of real estate, that real estate's going to go up in value. That real estate gives you tax deductions. That real estate kicks off a steady stream of cash flow. And guess what? Your mortgage, the biggest cost in that investment, guess what it's pegged at? 3%. It's less than the cost of inflation. So use as much debt effectively as leverage as possible to build your wealth and cash flow.
Yeah. What would you say, like, what are you trying to achieve in life? I'm just curious, like, what are your dreams?
Ooh, that's a good one, man. That's a really good one. I mean, so we just did a big training on this. We did a big training on it's marriage and money and then the purpose-driven life. And dude, I have a legacy list. I have dreams that I want to accomplish. In fact, I'm going to put it up right here for you so you can see it, my friend. Ryan Lee's legacy list right there. 100 things that I want to do in my life. Oh, look, I did one. I stood on an Alaskan glacier just last year. So, here's the reality. Cool. Life is a game. It's a game. So once you get in the flow of, hey, there is no end game. It's just a game that you play, and you play as hard and as effective as you can until your time is up. Like, I have all these things I'm running towards, but I get a ton of fulfillment out of the business that I run because it's truly helping people and using my God-given gifts, talents, and abilities. And if I can balance to a certain aspect, that's with a family and with downtime and with a life that I love, that's the game. Like, I want to write books. I want to launch podcasts. I want to reach more people. I want to have seminars and workshops. But at the same time, I want to travel the world with my beautiful wife. I want to take my kids on amazing adventures. I want to serve. I want to give. And so as long as I have like this vision of what I want my life to look like, every year, and specifically every 90 days, I pull one of those targets into the present. I say, okay, look, I'm going to grind really hard doing this thing, and then I'm going to go celebrate and do that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to grind really hard and do this thing, and then I'm going to go celebrate and go do that. And that's kind of the game that I play, man. I don't really feel like I have like this destination that when I accomplish this, I've arrived. It's just a constant game of increasing like what I believe is possible in my life and my business, doing it, celebrating, recalibrating, and then doing it again.
Yeah. I feel like your life reminds me of that quote of a rising tide raises all ships.
That's a good quote. I like that.
Yeah. Because when you become more of you and like more authentic and your higher self, it's going to empower other people around you as well.
Yeah, it is. It's super rewarding, man. It really is. To like what's been really interesting about this journey, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, is building a team. And man, that's been really, really empowering because I realized, man, I'm super good at a few things, but by default, the more I focus on those things I'm really good at, the more it exposes how many things I'm crappy at. And if I don't put really good people around me that are also really good at the things that I'm crappy at, man, this business and this impact and this stuff that I want to do doesn't go anywhere. And so it's been really, really fun building, like learning the skill sets over the past several years of how to build a team. And we've gone from me and Brad, just me and Brad, to now over 60 people inside of our businesses. And it's been crazy fun, difficult, challenging, hard, rewarding, and all the emotional extremes.
Yeah. But I mean, you deserve it. I mean, most big leaders, they have like Jeff Bezos isn't doing everything himself. He has a lot of people on his team. Yep. Cool. So obviously people can go listen to your podcast to learn more and like keep listening and being educated by you at Rise Up Live Free. Like if people want to work with you, or go to the next level and start becoming financially free, like the tactical things they need to do, get some eyeballs on what's going on in their life, where can they go?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, we have all the tactics inside of our community, but the gateway for us usually is our 5-day challenge. And the reason that's our challenge is what we do is not for everyone. And we're 100% upfront about that. Look, if you don't want to take control, if you don't want to be empowered with your money, if you're fine with, your stock market and the 401ks and all that stuff, we're not your guys. We're not the people for you. But if you realize that money you might have be better serviced by using your money and being empowered with your money and doing something with it that's productive and inspiring to you, then yeah, get in our game. You can see us on Facebook, Cashflow Tactics. 5-day challenge is free. You can go to cashflowtactics.com. I'm pretty sure it's /challenge. I should know that, but now we've made that a bumper on our podcast, so I don't have to say it every day. But our 5-day challenge is the easiest way. You'll get in there. We tell you 97% of traditional financial advice is dangerous, misleading, or wrong. By the way, if you're a business owner, it's probably 99.9%. Don't follow traditional advice if you're a business owner. So we tell you that, and then we show you why. And then we show you the opposite, the 3%. And then after you see that, you'll either say one or two things. These guys are crazy, or holy crap, these guys know it. They're a voice in the back of my head that's always been there. They just gave me the words and the numbers to go with it now. And if we're those people for you, awesome, get in our game. We'll show you how to do it. Everything centers around you having a game plan and then working the game plan.
Yeah, 100% agree. So if you guys are listening, go check that out. Go join the challenge. Go participate and engage in that. And dude, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot of cool value and like wisdom from this conversation. So,
well, man, it's always an honor, honestly, to connect with like-minded individuals. I love the service that you're providing. I mean, to get so many people's voice out there and allow them to be with people in some of the most intimate times of their life. I mean, I listen to podcasts when I'm in the morning. It's the first voice.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's people underestimate how much of an intimate platform it is. So but the big thing is because the intention of the platform.
Yeah.
When you go listen to podcasts, you're like, all right, what do I need now?
Yeah.
And it's like there's like an actual relationship there.
Totally. And you're searching, exactly. You said you're searching for the exact thing that's on your mind right now. So it's timely, relevant, intimate communication. And man, you guys help people do that.
Yeah. It's like an audiobook. It's like a new form of a book, like that same relationship you get. So dude, keep crushing it. And thanks for watching, everybody. And see you in the next episode. Peace out.